You're listening to We're Talking Sports with Ben Burns and Richie Donnell. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, without further ado, Ben Burns and Richie Donnell. Alrighty, well, happy Friday, Richie.
Yeah, last day of school.
Last day. Well, we're all done.
Yeah.
So, pretty incredible feeling. I am super tired.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. I saw Star Wars last night at 10:35.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm super tired. I don't know how well I did on that test, but if I get an F, it was worth it.
It was worth it.
Fantastic movie. I recommend you go see it. I saw it with somebody. Interesting. I saw it with somebody that has never seen a Star Wars movie before.
Yeah.
And she absolutely loved it. So
Okay.
she said she's a Star Wars fan now. So even if you haven't seen them, go see this one.
Okay. All
So-
right.
So let's switch things. Let's go to sports.
Yep.
Because this is We're Talking Sports.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get yelled at if we talk about stuff other than sports.
That's right.
So what do we got on docket today?
Some NFL stuff last night. I don't know. Did you see any of the Rams game?
I did not.
Rams Buccaneers.
I
played
am
last
completely.
Night. Okay.
I don't know what's
Okay.
going on. You're gonna tell me who wins, so I'm excited.
Some big moves in baseball over the last 24 hours. Some NBA rumors are starting to swirl a little bit as we get into the season. And then just a couple, I guess, personal opinion questions on some college football stuff and who are the Badgers going to go get as a head coach?
It should be Greg Gard.
It should be. Well, I got a list of guys that I've seen that people keep mentioning as potential suitors, so we'll see.
I don't know. Wisconsin's been rough. Now, new football coach, new basketball coach.
Yeah, everybody's retiring.
Ugh,
Crazy.
all right.
Next thing you know, they're going to have a baseball team.
Ugh, well, they don't need that. Let's stick with our rowing team. I
Yeah,
like that.
let's stick with
All right,
that.
so I'm Ben Burns.
Richie Donnell.
We are talking sports. All right, so like I said, I am completely out of sports with Star
last
Wars
24
and
hours.
finals. It's been nuts. So I need to know. I picked the Bucs to win. Who won?
St. Louis.
St. Louis won.
Yes, and funny story about that. So I started watching that game. I watched about the first three-quarter-ish. St. Louis, I mean, Tampa Bay was up and down the field on them. St. Louis was having a rough time defensively.
Yeah.
But it was kind of one of those bend, don't break situations where they only gave up 6 points originally, and St. Louis was just cruising. I mean, it was a blowout by I think it was like 21 to 3 or 21 to 6 at one point, and then they forced Tampa to throw, and Tampa started coming back once they in the fourth quarter, but St. Louis held on to win that game. And I don't know if they pulled guys. Like I said, I didn't watch most of the fourth quarter. But Tampa made a good comeback. But no, St. Louis won that game, and I don't think it would have been very close.
And I think St. Louis, for really ever since Jeff Fisher got there, they've always been known as a team. They're like one franchise quarterback away from being a playoff football team.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same way with the Cardinals were.
Yeah,
and now,
before they got
now,
Carson.
yeah, now look at them now.
Yep.
So, and Case Keenum started.
Yes, he did. And he actually played very well.
He did.
First half, he was 13 for 16, 2 touchdowns in the first half.
Okay. Obviously, he's not the guy.
No.
And by the way it looks, it probably isn't Foles either.
No. Foles is out with the concussion right now. But honestly, that game last night, the first kickoff return, Cunningham had a real nice return. So St. Louis had a short field, went down, scored, and then Tampa scored late in the third or early in the fourth, and Cunningham returned the ensuing kickoff, 103
Wow.
yards, but didn't score because he was that deep in the end zone. So he got it down to their 3-yard line, and Tampa Bay's defense held them to 3 points. But
I've never heard like a kick return go all the way to the 3 without a touchdown.
yeah,
You know?
actually, funny story about that. We were talking about there was a play last night where it was Doug Martin, and Doug Martin right now is the leading rusher in the
Yes.
league, passing AP because AP hasn't played yet. But so last night, Doug Martin made a jump cut and juked this guy, and a defensive end from the Rams just sprints down the field and makes this play about probably 10, 15 yards downfield. And Chuck and I were talking about hustle of players. And there's one play, just how you mentioned 103 yards and not score, that always sticks out to me. A number of years ago, the Patriots went to Denver. This was before Manning. I want to say this might have been Kyle Orton, when Kyle Orton was there.
Okay.
Maybe Tim Tebow. But so Tom Brady throws a pick, and they're about
Champ
to score.
Bailey.
Champ Bailey. And Ben Watson chased him
Yeah.
down. That will always stick out to me, and to me, that's probably the number one hustle play that I've ever seen.
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm trying to think who started. May have been Cutler?
Ooh, I don't know how long ago it
I
was. I
think-
can't really remember.
I mean, because that's when Champ Bailey was really at his best.
Right. So it might have even been Jake Plummer for all we know.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I just remember Denver was they were not in the rebuild mode yet. So
No.
it would have been before Josh McDaniels.
Well, yeah, they had Shanahan then.
yeah.
So
would
it
have
was
been-
Cutler
It was either Cutler or
Plummer.
Orton,
Or Orton.
because Shanahan was there with Orton when we got Cutler. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but Cutler was traded when McDaniels was coach.
Oh, he was traded with McDaniels. Was
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was traded with Shanahan yet. But speaking of the Patriots, so the Patriots brought in Steven Jackson. So we just got done talking about how they brought in
Monte
Ball.
Ball.
Now they brought in Steven Jackson,
Okay.
who's a borderline Hall of Fame running back. So we'll see if he ends up being the guy who gets a lot of carries. I mean, he's at 11,000 career yards. So I mean, he's a guy that I think he knows. He's been in the playoffs. He was there with St. Louis, and
Yeah.
obviously the years with Atlanta. He could be the guy we talked about who's going to get most of the carries if he picks up on the system pretty quickly.
Now, they didn't sign him. He just worked out.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, I would rather go with if he is going to get signed, it better be minimum wage. The
Yeah.
veterans minimum.
Right.
Not $7.25 an
Right,
hour.
right. Yeah.
But I don't know. He's had a lot of time off now, but like even when he played with Atlanta, he just wasn't the same.
No, not at
And
all.
that has a lot to do with him taking all those carries in St. Louis.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, he was their offense at the time.
Right. And Father Time, as we know, beats
Yeah,
everybody. That's the only undefeated team in history.
I don't see Steven Jackson making much of an impact for the Patriots. I still think right now Brandon Bolden is their guy.
Yeah, I think so too. A couple rumors came up over the last 3 days or so that a lot of people are upset with Stephen Ross, who's the owner of the Dolphins, because he doesn't live in Miami. So he's making all these moves, and he's really not close to the organization. But there's potential that the Dolphins could be going up for sale, as well as the 49ers. So there's a possibility that two NFL teams go on the market at the same time to be bought by new owners. And the 49ers owner, he's just looking to sell it in small parts.
Jed
originally.
York.
Yeah, that there's a possibility
Well,
that they move on from San Fran.
I think the 49ers, they need to give it back to Ed DeBartolo.
Yeah.
Because he's really one of the best owners we've had in the past 40 years.
Yeah.
You talk about Stephen Ross not even living in Miami. DeBartolo was, he was basically the Mark Cuban of football.
Yeah.
He was super committed to the team, and obviously leading, the 49ers to the dynasty, hiring a guy like Bill Walsh to run your team. I would love to see DeBartolo back in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, especially when you buy a team that's valued, we continue to see values of sport teams go up, especially now. Like the Clippers were just bought for an unbelievable amount of money, and that guy he's at games all the time. I think that if you own a sports team, if you can't live in the city, you almost have to be. Not the general manager, not Jerry Jones-esque.
No,
but Robert Kraft is very involved with the Patriots, even though he doesn't necessarily make a ton of decisions, which it's all Bill Belichick, as Belichick is a GM and head coach. But you see Robert Kraft at every game.
Yeah.
He's involved, and I think that that's what it takes to be an owner. You can't own a sports team and not be present.
And when you see the owner going out there and doing things, going to every game, it really rejuvenates the organization. I can't remember the Clippers guy, the name.
I don't remember.
Something like that. It's but anyways, I think he's done a great job so far, and he's made really the Clippers organization, their fans more excited than ever before. I think every NFL and NBA. Really, every professional team needs an owner like that.
Right, and even with the Bucs, since the new owners have taken over, they've gone to a number of games. Since they've bought in the team, Adam Silver has been to games 2 or 3 times in the last 2 years. And even, Mark Atanasio doesn't live in Wisconsin, lives in California, but he comes to quite a few Brewer games. I can't understand not being involved with your team if you're gonna own a team.
That's tough.
So we talked about the Rams and how that game went last night. So the Rams could finish 500 if they win out. They've committed to keeping Jeff Fisher. So if the Rams do move to Los Angeles,
I believe Les Snead too, their GM. I thought I saw they're keeping both.
If they move to Los Angeles, will both be kept? Do you think that if a team moves to Los Angeles, something splashy needs to happen?
I think if they move to LA, I think they'll be kept initially. But then maybe they'll go in a different direction, especially with Les Snead. I think Jeff Fisher is already a very big name.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many other big names out there can match the credentials of Jeff Fisher. And I think he's doing the best he can really to make this a good football team. And defensively, he has.
Yep.
It's just you need to find that quarterback.
Well, and you talk about Les Snead and the possibility of him being one. When both of those guys came in, that place was just a wreck. It was an awful place.
Well, and remember, just I think 2 years before that, they had Steve Spagnuolo come in, who was the hottest name in coaching.
Yep.
After being the defensive coordinator for the Giants and bringing them to the Super Bowl, and he couldn't do anything.
Right.
So
St. Louis is just, I think. The two guys that they have, I think, are the right guys. They have the right guy at GM and the right guy at head coach. It's a process to build, especially when you're in the West. That division is very, very tough. And before this year, San Francisco, I think almost every year we had them as a lock for the playoffs with Harbaugh.
Right.
Seattle and Arizona obviously are very, very good. So for them to possibly finish 500 in the toughest,
it's quite an accomplishment.
For
sure.
And they're definitely headed in the right direction. Interesting thing. I saw last night, and I'm going to put your brain to work here.
Oh, boy.
So this year, Jameis Winston has passed for 3,000 yards.
Okay.
Todd Gurley topped 1,000 last night. This is the first time since 1998 that a quarterback and running back drafted in the top 10 have done that in the same year as rookies.
Okay.
Can you name the two guys in 1998 that would have done it? So you had a rookie quarterback pass for 3,000 yards.
And in the same game.
No. For the same season. So 3,000 passing yards in the season, 1,000 rushing yards in the season, both guys being drafted in the top 10.
Okay.
This is the first time that's happened since 98.
So, if it's 98, it's got to be Peyton Manning.
It is Peyton Manning.
And the running back.
The running back. This is the stumper.
Jamal Lewis?
Fred Taylor.
Yeah,
that's... I would have never have guessed that either, but for the first time in 17 years, you had a running back and quarterback drafted in the top 10 that both had successful seasons.
Wow. Man, I like Fred Taylor.
Yeah,
He's
Fred
a good
Taylor's
back. Only made one Pro Bowl in his entire career.
And his kid is possibly going to be in the league within the next year as well.
Crazy.
So let's take a break real quick.
Take a break?
Yeah,
Alrighty.
and we'll get into some other stuff.
Hey, Richie, wouldn't it be great if we were playing the NFL today?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to play in the NFL, but not Cleveland.
What? Oh, come on. If I weren't going to play for any team, it would be for the Detroit Lions. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, Cleveland's just as bad.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Let you settle the debate. Go on Facebook, comment, tell us who you would least want to play for, the Browns or the Lions. And it's the Lions, obviously. All right, so I got to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about it on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about spoilers? Like, how do you think like there should be a rule with that? Amount of years that should pass by before you can say stuff.
Amount of years?
Well, yeah, no, like what do you think? Like, obviously, with Star Wars coming out, like I'm lucky I already saw it because I was on Facebook.
This morning,
and I saw a ton of spoilers for it.
I think it's going to happen regardless because of the day and age that we're in with technology and social media, that as soon as people leave the theater, it's going to be talked about. I mean, I'm probably sure, like, last night, I don't know if you were on social media or not,
but
if you did not go to the 7 o'clock one, well, you were probably going in as they were coming out.
Right.
So if you didn't go to the movie, like you said last night, you probably would have saw stuff at probably the time your movie was starting already from that 7 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, I avoided all social media yesterday.
I mean, I guess it depends because there's spoilers on TV shows.
And now with TV shows, not a lot of people are even watching it live anymore.
Right. And, some movies actually use spoilers as a way to bring in the new one, as we see with the Marvel. At the end, they kind of have like those I guess after credits type sort of thing. I don't want to say that it's a spoiler.
I don't think that.
But
I think that's more of a preview.
Right. They kind of connect the movies that way. I don't know. I mean, for me, if I know that I absolutely want to see something, I'll stay off of social media. It's hard to shut people up.
I guess that's fair, but I don't know. I think it's proper etiquette. Not to say anything like because as expected for Star Wars, there are a lot of crazy things happening.
Right.
And that's for every Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And for people to ruin it just on Facebook and stuff like that, it's pretty senseless.
But I mean, but you're saying proper etiquette. I mean, how can you determine what's long enough? Like say somebody like myself, who's not necessarily the biggest Star Wars fan.
And that's what I'm asking. Like,
I mean, like you said, if you wouldn't have went and saw it last night, it probably would have been ruined if you would have went on Facebook this morning. But at the same time, are you expecting people that went and saw it, in the first weekend to not say anything for, months or weeks? What I mean?
That's the question I'm posing to you because let's say like The Sixth Sense. Mm-hmm. Sixth Sense had one of the biggest twists of all time, and it was way back in 1999. Do we tell people?
I think, with it, because now you're getting into the freedom of speech type of thing.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to censor.
Well, I don't think
it's
obviously if you say a spoiler, it's not illegal.
No. Right. And I think I'm with you where people should not say anything.
Okay.
I don't feel the need. Let people enjoy it. I'm with you on that.
Right.
But at the same time, you are gonna. There's more of the I want to follow today's trend. Let me get on social media and blast, and just put everything out there. Just because that's what people do these days.
I think if you are going to say something, you should always say spoiler alert.
Yes. So people can just scroll past it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Exactly.
If you put hashtags
In all caps,
spoiler alert. Right.
spoiler alert. All right, we talked 4 minutes about spoilers.
Well, here's a spoiler.
Okay.
For those of you that have not been paying attention to sports, Todd Frazier, who played for the Reds, was an All-Star last year, is now a White Sox.
Wow.
In a 3-team deal that was involved the Dodgers, the White Sox, and the Reds. And pretty much we can say the Reds are in the same boat as the Brewers. They're going to be selling house here. Brandon Phillips is probably the next to go. And, I mean, I'm going to say within the next 2 years, both Joey Votto and Jay Bruce will probably be gone as well. They're rebuilding. Now, in this deal, they were able to get their replacement for Brandon Phillips if they decide to move on from him, which this morning I then saw that the Nationals are on the verge of getting him probably within the next day or 2 at most. And then another one that I really like to see, Chipper Jones, probably be a Hall of Famer when his time comes.
Yes.
And played his entire career with the Braves, has been hired as a special assistant with the team as well.
Okay.
I really like when teams do that for players, and I know that was something that the Packers had talked about with Favre. If Favre had spent his whole career there and retired, that they were going to ask him to come in and help coach. But I really like when organizations honor those players that have played for them, that spent a lot of time there, and then give them some type of an opportunity to come back and help out inside the organization.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think that's like hiring a guy like Chipper Jones with the Braves. Fans will never be upset with that.
Right.
You know, and that pretty much goes with every team.
Yeah, and I mean, like, to even tie this back to what we just talked about with the NFL, Jason Garrett,
Yes,
is the same way. You know, he was Troy Aikman's backup, and knew that it was never going to be his time. He was never going to be the guy, so he was able to just step into coaching, and now obviously the head coach. So switching topics here. What do you think about these rumors about Dwight Howard wanting out of Houston now?
I definitely believe it.
I had this conversation with Brandon the other day.
All right.
He had asked me about it, and he goes, "What do you think about this whole Dwight Howard thing?" And I'm starting to see what Laker fans saw years ago.
Yeah, I think he's proven that he's extremely immature.
Yes.
And now, just when things start going south, he wants out.
Right. Yeah. For all you Laker fans that I ever talked to that criticized you for criticizing Dwight, I want to take this moment to apologize, because Dwight to me is probably one of the biggest crybabies out
For
there.
Sure.
Now.
Right with DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah. This guy. Anyway, but Dwight, the whole thing with Orlando, saying, no, I don't want to leave, I love Orlando. Next thing we know, he's playing for the Lakers. He's all pumped up because he gets to play with Kobe, gets a shot at an NBA title. He lasts 1 year because Kobe yells at him. And then he ends up in Houston, and now he's pissed that he's playing second fiddle to James Harden. Does it ever stop with this guy? I mean, you're looking at a guy who could probably end up in the Hall of Fame, because he's probably going to get 20,000 and 10,000.
When he was with the Magic, the sky was the limit for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have been the second best player in the league, right, with LeBron.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand it. I mean,
I don't know.
I guess everybody hits puberty and maturity at a different time, and apparently Dwight is still making his way.
Can you imagine a growth spurt with Dwight Howard?
Yeah, at 8'3", 300 pounds, Dwight Howard.
He's gonna hit his head on the rim.
Yeah, but I mean, let's put it this way: if Dwight Howard does get traded, would you like to see him leave the Western Conference? As a Mavs fan, do you think that opens a door and makes Houston worse, or do you think it doesn't matter because wherever Dwight goes, bad things are bound to happen?
I don't think that, but I just think right now it was kind of like we were talking about Wednesday with DeMarcus Cousins with the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Right now the Rockets are not doing well,
no.
And even when they play well, it's because of James Harden,
right?
And because of guys like Ariza and Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dwight Howard has kind of proven that he's kind of just there. now. So, why not just keep him in Houston?
Yeah.
Because, being a Mavs fan, I do think that the Mavericks currently are better than the Rockets.
Okay.
Just mostly because of the way the Rockets are playing.
Right. So we were talking about teams up for sale. The Timberwolves owner has come out and said that he will sell 30% of his ownership shares.
Okay.
Now, there has been talk that that's something that KG is interested in, and once he's done playing, that he would like to be involved with the Timberwolves organization and possibly become their owner someday. Is this a chance where, I don't know who the owner is off the top of my head or how old he is, but is this a way for him to kind of find his successor as an owner? If it's 30%, I mean, Kevin Garnett played in that day where with the CBA that he was able to cash in that brief time. I want to say it was when Kobe got his huge deal, but those guys were able to cash in for a very short period of time due to the rules in the CBA. Right. So is this a way that maybe he says he's going to sell 30% because he has to honor the public to anybody who would want to buy, but maybe he's just saying that, but really we could see this is the time for KG to possibly step in there.
I don't know what KG's intentions are, and I don't even know. I mean, because let's just Michael Jordan got a ton of money from his shoe brand and stuff, and I don't think, even though KG was in a time where he got a huge contract, I don't think he's anywhere near what Kevin Garnett or what MJ has.
Yeah.
So I think KG could have a piece of the organization. Obviously, I think he wants to stay with the Timberwolves post-retirement.
Right.
And it probably means that part of the ownership. I don't know if he's going to end up becoming the majority owner someday. If I had to say, I would say no.
Okay.
But I think, around 30%, maybe.
So, I mean, is this a situation where maybe we can, you said he may not have the money like MJ, but MJ, when he got involved with the Bobcats, was a small minority owner along with all the other celebrities.
And then he did build up, so
Right.
that's true. So, I mean, maybe we see something like that.
Okay. So this morning, as I was waiting for you to finish the exam, some interesting news popped up. The 76ers have hired Mike D'Antoni as their associate head coach. This goes back to what I was saying with Adam Silver, forcing them to hire Colangelo and essentially forcing the Sixers to try to find a way to success. What do you see as Mike D'Antoni's impact as a former head coach with this 76ers team?
Is Mike D'Antoni all of a sudden the guy who can just come in and win?
He
didn't do that with the Lakers.
No. And I'm not saying that, but I mean, from a standpoint of what he can do to help them offensively, so to speak. I mean, he did have those great Phoenix teams.
Sure,
with Steve Nash and Amari.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the biggest thing is he brings in knowledge, and but still a huge difference from the 76er team from the Suns team is that the Suns had experience and also knowledge, having two guys like Sean Marion and Steve Nash on the team, two of the smartest guys in the game. That helped.
Yep.
And with the 76ers, they don't really have guys with that experience or knowledge of the game.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see.
Okay. So then the other thing that we talked about was the Bucs and the huge party that they decided that they were going to have because of beating the Warriors.
I wasn't invited either. I was kind of bummed about
neither.
that.
And I'm an employee, and I wasn't invited. But, so the Bucs then came out and said that they wanted to add some veteran leadership to the roster. Zaza was the only guy over the age of 30 last year on the entire team. And the next closest is OJ, who I believe is 28, 29-ish. But they want to add some veteran leadership to help this young team kind of grow on and off the court. And the team, while they were in Los Angeles this week, met with Carlos Boozer. Of all people.
Boozer.
Yes. I was not overly excited to hear about that. But apparently there was something, a rumor that came out that they're talking a deal somewhere in the range of 2 years, $17 million.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't get it either. I mean, of all the people that are out there that could provide veteran leadership.
I think the Bucs are running out of money.
I don't know how they can
gave
go.
a big deal to Middleton.
Well,
big
but
deal
with the
to
CBA,
Henson.
the salary cap is jumping roughly $25 million.
Man, but still, I mean, they still got to give a big deal to Giannis.
And the CBA and the salary is going to continue. I think the CBA is jumping almost $100 million over the next 4 years.
Even then, Boozer's not worth 2 years,
No,
17.
no, not at all.
And the Bulls were more than willing to get rid of him. And then when he went on with the Lakers, I kind of thought he kind of be in a leadership role after Kobe went down, and he didn't.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that he's the best fit for the Bucs.
No, and he's not a guy that's going to come in and say, okay, this is how you're supposed to be a professional.
Right.
I don't see that.
I don't see that either. So, a name that has been talked about over the last couple of years because of his success as a coach, there's always the talk of who's the next guy to go from college to professional. And Kevin Sumlin, the head coach at Texas A&M, has been a name that's been brought up over the last couple of years with Johnny Manziel and developing guys and with the success that they've had since moving to the SEC. Well, this week, Kevin Sumlin lost both of his starting quarterbacks. They started the season with Kyle Allen, and then they benched him for Kyler Murray. Both guys are now transferring, which I think this is big picture here.
Right.
There's got to be something going on.
I think Kevin Sumlin needs to go. Coaching in the SEC, it's a tough job.
Yes.
And when you don't have the players to back you up, you're toast.
Yeah, I agree.
And he had his moment with Manziel, and that was a good football team with Mike Evans and a lot of other guys that I can't think of right now. But I think it'd be good for him to go and get a good job.
And I thought when he originally got the job and they were in the Big 12 that would have been a good fit, because in the Big 12 we see a lot of offense and almost no defense. Whereas the SEC, you kind of need both to be successful. And granted, they do have Myles Garrett, who will probably be a top 10 pick in next year's draft. If you don't have a good, sound defense, which Kevin Sumlin has not had, you're not going to be successful.
All right. And he had Luke Jokel and Jake Matthews at tackle.
Yes.
See, so I know I'm not that tired. So,
but I want to get into, since we're speaking of transfers, the transferring of college players. Now, we've seen many different things happen with transfers and how they can transfer and how this whole situation works. Now, one of the things when a guy talks about transferring and says that he's going to transfer, coaches can block where he's going to go. Okay. I mean, do you think that that's something that the NCAA should allow? Because some coaches will say, well, we're just going to put a block on the other teams in our conference. So if you want, so the example I have, Jared Uthoff, who's at Iowa right now, and he's playing phenomenal. When he came to Wisconsin, and Bo Ryan said, we are not letting you transfer to any team within the conference.
Yeah.
And there was a list of a lot of schools that he listed, but Uthoff is from Iowa, and he wanted to transfer back home and be closer to his family. And Bo Ryan said, we're not letting you go to either Iowa or Iowa State. Do you think that that's fair?
That's tough. Originally, I kind of thought, well, I mean, he should go wherever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's his choice. He's an adult, but at the same time, I mean, it's kind of unfair to the team, to the original team.
Right.
So I don't really know where I stand there.
Okay. Now, what about the senior eligibility rule, where guys, if they graduate, can transfer and they're eligible immediately? We saw this with Russell Wilson, which happened to be a huge blessing in disguise for Badgers and Badger fans.
Yeah,
but I mean,
for sure.
Do you feel like there should be one transfer rule, and if you transfer, you have to sit a year regardless?
I think I'm fine with the whole senior eligibility thing.
Okay.
I mean, I think
Well, not just. I guess we should just say not just seniors, but if guys graduate in 2 years, they'll get 2 years of eligibility. If they graduate as juniors, 1 year type of thing.
I think that's fine because, a lot of these guys, they want to get out of school.
Right.
I'm kind of feeling that way right now.
Yes,
but
I agree.
Russell Wilson, if he would have gone to Wisconsin and waited a year, he could have said, well, hey, based on what I did at NC State, I could have been a 4th, 5th round pick.
Right.
Why didn't I just go in the NFL?
Yeah.
So I think not making them have to sit a year would be beneficial.
Okay. What about guys with off the field issues? So like this year, Maryland was able to get Rashad Suleiman from Duke, who was kicked out of school. He was kicked out of school, kicked off the team. So we see that quite a bit, especially with not to pick on them, but SEC guys, where a lot of SEC guys are getting kicked out of school. Should those guys have to go through a certain?
They have to go through a certain protocol, and I feel like a big thing for that is, and even talking about if it was grades or something, I think they should be really supervised and mentored on a very high level to make sure that the team that is getting this guy isn't making it a waste. But for off the field issues, maybe sit out for half a year or something like that.
Yeah, and I could be fine with that. It just you see all these guys who get kicked out of school and then they end up going to FCS schools. Which your North Dakota States and whatnot, and they don't have to sit out because they're essentially dropping a level and they're not transferring at the same level, which gives them free reign to play. And I mean, we saw that with guys
Janoris Jenkins,
and I can't remember Isaiah Crowell, the Cleveland Browns running back. He was caught with a loaded gun, and was kicked out of Georgia. And he was just able to transfer to another school and continue playing. And to me, I think that something needs to be done about guys who do things like that.
Sure, I think that needs to be monitored more.
Now, you talked about having the senior eligible, that you're fine with that. What about guys that want to upgrade? So one of the biggest ones that I found was Seth Curry. Seth Curry originally went to Liberty as a freshman, was averaging like 20 points a game or so, was just tearing it up, and decided that he was going to transfer to Duke because the competition level wasn't what he wanted more competition.
Right.
Should guys like that have to sit a year?
I don't think so. I don't see the big issue with sitting out a year.
Okay. So no matter what, any transfer, if you want to transfer, you should be able to just go in and play.
I really never understood that rule.
Okay.
You're transferring. Guess what? You don't get to play for a year. I don't get that.
I don't know where that started. I can't vouch for that. So I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's essentially like a forced red shirt. I really don't know a whole lot about it. I guess it's just something that I've always seen as it's what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of having researched it. And then the last one I was going to have was the family issues, where the NCAA do have those waivers for guys who claim they have the family issues of grandma's sick or dad's sick or something, want to transfer back home and be closer to the family, so they apply for the immediate eligibility to play.
Was that the kid who transferred from Arizona State to Marquette?
Yes, Trent Lockett did that.
Lockett.
Yeah, he's from Minnesota, but he went to Arizona State, transferred back home because a family member was had some health issues. And then there's another one, Angel Rodriguez, who played at Kansas State, and he's from Puerto Rico, and he transferred to Miami to be closer to home. But he was not granted immediate eligibility. So my question is kind of how you were saying, if a kid wants to transfer, let him transfer. I think the NCAA almost puts himself in a sticky situation here, as how do you determine what is sick enough to let a kid play?
Sure, yeah, grandma's getting a lot of headaches over here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, is the NCAA then going to pry and say, well, we need to see medical bills and see what's wrong with them? You know what I mean? How do you determine that?
I'm sure they have people that are designated to check all this stuff. Kind of the same thing with the NFL with putting a guy on IR.
Yeah.
You can't just do that because, he broke a fingernail. They have to go through a certain protocol, and I think it's kind of the same thing with this.
Okay. So the last little bit of college I got here. So we talked about Bo Ryan, retiring, and you had talked about some of the guys that you would like to see possibly get the Wisconsin job, and you're a big guard guy.
I like guard. I think he's gonna bring the same thing Bo Ryan has, and obviously with Bo Ryan, it's worked.
Yeah. Right. You can go either way about it. I mean, we've seen guys where interim coaches now, like USC has now extended their interim coach. Yeah. Minnesota has done theirs now for college football, and then in other cases we've seen guys not get it, and then somebody else come in. So I did a little bit of research to see who are the top names that are linked to the Wisconsin job.
I like this research.
And the number one name, Tony Bennett. I mean, that's I think for sure given.
Isn't he a singer? No. No? Okay. I thought he was a jazz singer.
The Virginia head coach. But as we agreed, that's probably not going to happen.
All right.
So also the other one, obviously, Greg Gard would be extended after his interim coaching.
I don't even see why we're even talking about this.
Because to me, I think there's more of a chance that Greg Gard does not get this job than you do. I personally
I'm
think.
flabbergasted by that.
Really?
I don't see, what's wrong with Greg Gard?
I'm not saying that anything is wrong with him.
No, but obviously you're not, but some people are.
But what makes him the right guy?
Makes him the right guy because he has the same system as Bo Ryan. Yeah. He knows the players. Yeah. He knows the university. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like it'd be a seamless transition. But
now here you're talking about on the court stuff in terms of the system would be the same.
Sure, yeah.
He's familiar with Wisconsin. But now if you're Wisconsin, right, and you go get a guy like Tony Bennett, who's coaching a top 10 team in the nation, has won the ACC tournament and the ACC championship for the last 2 years, and Virginia makes big runs in the NCAA tournament, you don't think that that's going to make kids want to come to Wisconsin?
I think kids are already coming to Wisconsin. Look at what we did. We just made 2 Final Fours in a row.
Right. But in the number one thing that actually, so when I looked up these names, each one of them had a little written piece as to why it would be a fit. And the number one thing, this is the number one thing that I've seen talked about Wisconsin right now, is that you're going to see guys like Archie Miller, who you brought up.
I like Archie.
With Dayton. And another one that I'm a big fan of is Chris Mack, who's at Xavier right now.
Okay.
The number one thing that I saw as to why an Archie Miller or a Chris Mack would not leave their current school is because their teams right now are as good as Wisconsin. So to go to Wisconsin, it wouldn't be any different than a Dayton or an Xavier because Wisconsin right now is kind of in a flux with that basketball program having lost all their stars. And Wisconsin as a basketball school is very hard to recruit, which we brought up. That not right now with Xavier being a top 15 team, the possibility of getting kids to come to Xavier right now might be better than getting an elite star to come to Wisconsin.
That might be true, but I think, Wisconsin, A, they're a Big Ten team. B, they just made 2 Final Fours in a row.
Right. But again, we talked about the recruits that they did bring in, and
they just had a guy that was Player of the Year.
Right. But and that's the Wisconsin way of bringing guys in and developing them over 4 years.
Okay.
And that's what benefited Wisconsin with the 2 Final Four runs of Sam Decker came in from day one, started as a freshman, played his entire way.
I believe he was a sixth man.
As a freshman?
Yeah.
Okay. But either way, he was getting a lot of minutes as a freshman, and he played all the way through to his junior year. And then Kaminsky really came on as a junior, and just used those 2 years to develop. And that kind of seems to be the Wisconsin way, whereas now...
And what's wrong with that?
I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. But what I'm saying is you can't... The way that Wisconsin went to 2 straight Final Fours with 2 guys who were first-round NBA draft picks. These last 2 years are probably the most successful years Wisconsin has had in the history of their basketball program outside of 2000 when they went to the Final Four.
Yes.
So, for me, it's almost fair to say that Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky are once-in-a-program type kids, and what are the chances of Wisconsin being able to repeat that with what we've seen? Obviously, once those guys left, we figured that there would be a downfall, but everybody assumed that Koenig and Hayes would be able to take over and keep this program afloat, and we haven't been able to see that.
But I still think if we stay in this system and the same coaching philosophies that Bo Ryan had, I think the chances are okay.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we get a guy like Archie Miller or Tony Bennett, getting a guy like that, what's to say that recruiting ended up getting better?
Yeah. Right. None of this is obviously foreseen as a foregone conclusion.
I still think, Michigan State reigns supreme for Big Ten recruiting. Michigan's even got a couple big guys. So,
yep. Did you see the Mike and Mike interview about this by chance?
I did not.
Okay. So Greeny actually made a similar statement to what I had told you about how Bo Ryan actually used this as a ploy and kind of as a con to get Gard
and I think he did, yeah.
And maybe Bo Ryan could be right. I mean, there's guys that have been under Bo Ryan, like Rob Jeter was an assistant under Bo Ryan, and UWM right now is doing fantastic. So there's no reason to say that Bo Ryan assistants can't get it done. But I think that if Alvarez was sold on Gard, he would have named him the coach in waiting. He would have said, okay, when Bo Ryan retires, you're going to get the job. And that when Bo Ryan announced his retirement shortly after said that, that he was going to leave, but then 1 year type of thing, that whole confusing thing right there, that Barry Alvarez would have committed to Gard at that point if he was sold on Gard as being the next head coach. I just feel like the situation would have been handled a little bit differently.
Sure, absolutely. I agree. And I guess being a Badgers basketball fan, I kind of just assumed that Gard was going to be the next guy.
Okay.
And now that there's a big question mark, this leaves me really confused.
Yeah.
So.
But to throw out the other names that I saw, Ben Jacobson, he's the head coach at Northern Iowa, who's had a good run the last couple of years in the NCAA tournament. Archie Miller, as I said, Chris Mack from Xavier, Bryce Drew from Valparaiso. His brother is the head coach at Baylor. They're just a big, kind of like the Hurleys, a big basketball family that are well respected throughout basketball. And then Saul Phillips, who is now the head coach at Ohio. So, I mean, those are just the most common names that I've seen linked to the Wisconsin job. I think Wisconsin is dreaming of Tony Bennett. That's just who I think, if they had their choice of anybody in the country, that's who they're going to sign.
All right.
So,
Greg Gard.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Greg Gard for president.
Let's take a break quick. We'll come back and we'll finish up with a fun Friday.
Oh, fun.
Okay, Richie, give me your best evil laugh. All right, here's my. What do you think? Is that good? We'll work on it.
We'll work on it.
All right, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, Richie.
Yeah, Monday.
It's not very happy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Last day of class, though. I'm kind of happy about that.
No, it's not the last day. Friday is the last day of class.
Right,
I don't like it when people say that this is the last day of class because, no.
Yeah, well,
finals is the last day.
Do you have anything tomorrow?
Yeah, I got a quiz final exam at 7:45.
Ugh. I got nothing tomorrow. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, though. I got one.
Let's talk about sports.
Let's talk about sports. That's why we're here. So, a little NFL stuff today. I mean, nothing major over the weekend.
Okay.
I don't think really happened.
Andy Dalton.
Well, yeah.
Hurt.
I mean, that's the big news right now. I got that down to make sure we talk about that. Some MLB stuff. Pete Rose today. They finally came to a decision on that.
All right.
And then NBA. The only NBA topic, the Hall of Fame. They're actually looking to move up the eligibility. So right now it's at 5 years. They want to move it down to 4. How that would,
like the NFL.
Yep. Actually, is the NFL 4?
NFL's 4.
Okay. And then there's only one thing really for college football now that coaches are all done. And then I do want to talk about something that happened last week. Parents in sports. How outrageous they can get. There was 2 incidents brought up last week that I want to talk about on today's show.
And
You don't want to mention about your Bucs?
Hey, I don't want to jinx them.
So we're not going to talk about it.
No, we'll talk
just
about
for the
we'll talk
sake
about
of the show. You don't want it to be jinxed.
Yeah. No, we'll talk about it. We'll touch on it.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't want to talk about it because they're still bad. I mean, they still have a really bad record, but we can talk about
That's still a pretty historic win, though, for them.
And we'll mention more on the show, but I got some interesting facts about that win for them, actually.
All right. So we are going to talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
Okay. So I'm Ben Burns.
Richie Donnell.
And we are talking sports.
Talking sports.